everyone, it's Denny here from Angel Handmade Papercraft. Today I am working with the Love from Lizi September 2008 Super Kit. So I'm starting with some Copic colouring. So I am stamping on the white Copic Safe cardstock that was in the kit this month, and I am stamping the images up using Memento Tuxedo Black. So I'm starting with I'm just colouring the one image on the left there. I didn't think you guys would be interested in watching all of them, so I've only recorded that one. So I did have the Copics listed, and I will have them listed as I go through. So I'm just starting with the skin first. So I decided to wing it with some green markers, and I'm quite happy with the way that it turned out. So that's pretty cool. It's always nice to find yourself a nice new blend that you haven't used before. So I'm just, my way of coping is I always put the lightest color down first, and then I go darkest to lightest, and then if I need to do any touch-ups I do it from there. So now I'm moving on to the purple section, and again I thought I'd better zoom in a little bit so you guys can get all the details. So I am no perfectionist. I don't talk myself up to be a perfectionist. I color the way that I want to color, and I'm happy with the way that it works for me. So I'm just working my way through, just trying to add in some texture into her dress. So I've just created some sort of pleats through the bottom of the dress there. And now I'm going back in with my lightest color marker and just blending all of that out. And I'm just giving her some nice purple socks or leggings or whatever you want to call them. Alright, so now I'm going to do the little bow in her hair. I did miss the section on the right hand side there, but I will come back to that after I start colouring the hair and I realise. So just working my way through. And then back to the lightest colour to blend it all out. So I'm using the At You Spicker green pen just to add some glitter to the little skull on the top of the bow. I thought that would look cute. And now I'm just adding some colour into the book, just jumping my way through. Alright, and now I am going to move on to her hair. So I'm laying down again just the lightest colour. I'm just having a think about here where I was going to start. So I'm just laying down the lightest colour first, which is the N5. Just a rough colour. You're going to be blending all of this out anyway, so this part does not need to be perfect whatsoever. So just working my way through. How pretty are those lashes on her eyes? Oh, wish mine were that long. I do have quite long lashes, but not quite that long. Alright, so this is where I've just realised that I did miss that top section of the hair bow there, so I'm just fixing that up before I forget and accidentally colour it in the black. And then just blending the colour back out. Alright, so now back to the hair colour, back in with the lightest of the blend. Alright, so now I'm going in with the darkest of the markers. So I'm just mapping out where my darkest areas are going to be, and then I'm just using a flicking motion. I tend to flick towards me or flick away from me, just depending on the image itself. I do turn my image quite a bit, so that's what you will see a lot of me doing. I try not to when I know that I am doing a video, but sometimes it is a lot easier when I have the image a certain way. So just using a quick flicking motion. Working my way through. So that was the N marker. Now I'm just going to go into my medium blend, which was the N7. And carefully start pulling out that N9 marker, and then I'll go back to the lightest marker and blend it all out. Alright, so now I'm just going to add some gold tones in for her book. And I did add a shadow here, but I didn't end up actually using it like that. And I've just ran it through with the dye in my Sizzix Big Shot. So let's get started on the cards. So I'm using some texture paste and the stencil. I'm just gently pulling that over the top of all of the stencil. A very, very rough job. I wanted it to be rough. So I'm making sure that it's not perfect, coming out the edges, etc. Then I'm going to carefully pull all that masking tape off and pull up my stencil so I can go and give it a good clean, and I'm going to hit it with my heat tool because I'm impatient and couldn't wait for it to dry by itself. So I'm using one of the little girls that I coloured up earlier, and I'm using the Trick or Treat Y'all sentiment. I'm layering that up with some purple and some black cardstocks, and I'm going to add some sequins here. I'm just using a bit of American Tombow Mono Multi, and I'm just dipping that in using my pickup tool and just popping those down. So I'm putting all the card together using Scotch ATG. That's the first card done. Ready, let's go. Card number 2, another one of the little beauties that I coloured up. And I am cutting a circle using a Lawn Fawn Stitch Circle die, just running that through my Sizzix Big Shot. I'm also cut up some little strips of which I knew that would be cut off some of the pattern papers, and I just banded those using some EK Success Cutter Bee scissors, just battering just the one end, and I'm just playing with what I'm going to do here. I decided to add some more elements, so I've just quickly stamped those up. Again, Memento Tuxedo Black. It's the same white cardstock from the kit, and I've just used the leftover piece that I had from the original colouring. So I'm just adding a little bow. So just doing a quick colour up of that. Blending it all out. Adding some black onto the skull, blending it out, and I just added it to the side of the sentiment. I thought it would look cute. And just trying to work out what I'm going to do next. It didn't feel finished. So I grabbed some of the purple and black cardstocks. I'm just playing around with layering those up, and I decided it needed something else. So I grabbed a piece of the white cardstock, and I'm just going to stamp out using a Lawn Fawn acrylic block some of the little tiny stamps and make my own pattern paper. So that's what I'm doing here, just stamping it all out. Again, I'm just using that Memento Tuxedo Black. Sorry guys, I just knocked my microphone over. So just making sure that it's rough and just making sure that it, does look finished. So I'm just going to slide that down the back behind the image and those pattern paper strips. And I'm just trying to work out my layering, where I'm going to put everything. So I'm going to grab my ATG gun, add some adhesive to the back. I love my ATG gun. It is quite large, but it's perfect. I love it for every job that I do. I'm also part of an ATG subscription club, so I get them sent out to me every month, so I never seem to run out, which is fantastic. I'll have all of those links as well. So just popping that down. Sorry guys, I'm off camera. I have a habit of doing this. I get so involved in my cards that I forget to look up and make sure that I'm still on screen. Alright, so I'm adding some sequins, so just using my pickup tool and some American Tombow Mono Multi, just dipping that in and adding them to my card carefully. Alright, so that's the next card done. Let's move on to card number 3. So I'm using one of the little girls from the decoupage pop-out sheet, and I'm going to layer her up, adding the bow and the bottom of her skirt. So I'm just going to use some Scotch foam mounting tape, and I'm just going to cut it up into very, very small pieces, and just add all that behind. Just a tip with you when you're using all your foam tapes is to take the backing paper off before you start adhering it. That way you can bend it and move it around a little bit. It makes it a lot easier. I'm using one of the sentiments. I'm just playing around with my layering or where I'm going to put it. I just cut into her arm a little bit because I wanted her arm to sit over the top of the sentiment, so I've just used my EK Success scissors to do that. And now I'm grabbing some of the pattern papers from the kit, just having a play around trying to work out what I'm going to use, and I decided I needed to add a doily. Like, it's not one of my unboxings and my 10 cards 1 kit without having a doily. I need a doily. So I'm just cutting up my pattern paper sheet to slide that behind. Where have I gone? I've gone off screen. Not sure where I am. Probably cutting something. There you go. Grabbing some of the ribbon from the kit. I've just cut it into a small piece. I've added some ATG to the back ends just so that I can wrap it around that pattern paper. Just zooming out a little bit there because I've realized that I'm not on screen because I'm zoomed in so close still from the Copic paper, the Copic coloring, sorry. I'm adding a second strip of ribbon here. I didn't use the gold. I ended up using this pretty, it's kind of like a rose goldy kind of color. It's really pretty. So I'm just adding some of that. Again, I just used some Scotch ATG to stick that down, and then I just wrap it around the back and stick it to the back of the pattern paper. Now I'm going to pop all of that onto a white Twiddly Bits card base. I am a square card user. I do not get along with rectangle cards. I don't know why. I'm adding a piece of black cardstock behind that pattern paper just to pop it off the card a little bit. And I'm going to use some of the Nuvo drops that was in the kit, which is a beautiful colour. Tip with using the Nuvo crystal drops is to always keep your bottle straight up and down. I'm just going to pat that out onto my hand just so that I get that domey shape before they start drying. And that is another card finished, is it? Or am I going to add something? I'm going to add some sequins on again. I'm loving the sequins in this kit and I am pushing myself to use them. I am not a big sequins user. No reason why. I don't know. So I am adding some sequins onto this gorgeous, gorgeous card. Just using my pickup tool again and just some of the American Tombow Mono Multi-Liquid Adhesive. I just squirt a little tiny bit of it out onto my mat and then I just make sure that I clean it up when I'm done so that it doesn't dry. So just adding a few of those all over my card and that's another one done. Now we are going to move on to, what are we up to, card 4? Yes, so I am using the little witchy woo. And what am I going to do? Just trying to work out what sentiment I am going to use on this card. So I adhered just the side of her to the sentiment. I'm just on, I had a brain snap and nothing in my head was working, so I'm just having a look through Pinterest to see if I can get some ideas. Do you guys ever do that? Like, I had so many plans when I started and then all of a sudden I just went blank. So I'm grabbing some of that gorgeous silver cardstock, or grey, the grey sparkly cardstock. I've just cut a small square down, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop the stencil down. I'm going to use some Tim Holtz distress ink in the black sort, just the normal distress ink, not the new ink. And I'm not even going to bother sticking it down. I'm just going to hold it, and I'm just going to carefully blend it using just a mini ink blending tool. And I'm just going to carefully blend it. You just need to be careful with stencils that are so fine like this, that you don't twist and turn it too much, because you will possibly break the ends and things off. So you don't want to do that. So just very carefully blending it away. And as you can see, like, the stencil didn't even really move. Like, I was pretty careful, but at the same time, it didn't move at all. I was quite impressed. So just giving my fingers a clean off, because I had ink all over my fingers, and I am that girl that touches everything with yucky, inky fingers and ruins things. So I am giving them a clean up, and I'm very, very happy. Alright, so now I'm going to start layering everything together. I'm going to add some ribbon down the left hand side of the card. Working my way through carefully, just cutting up that patterned paper for the background, and I also popped a doily in, and now I'm going to add that ribbon. Alright, just going to add here that little spudware paper that I've cut up and made. Just adhering the ribbon using some Scotch ATG gun. I'm going to add my image and my sentiment down, and then I will pop that onto a Twiddly Bits card base, and I'm going to add some sequins on there as well. So again, just using that same liquid adhesive. Alright, moving on to card number 5. I am using one of the little girl images, and I'm popping the broom behind her. And I'm using the Witch Please sentiment. So these little bits and pieces came out of the little collectibles packet. Just using those. I've grabbed some of the pattern paper, I've just cut it up, and I've then backed it with some black cardstock. And now I'm going to use some of the skulls that pattern paper, and I'm just going to layer these and off center them a little bit. Adding my little witchy woo down. I love this sentiment, it's beautiful. Just trying to work out my layering and how I'm going to position things. I'm going to pop a doily in behind one of those layers. You don't see much of it, but it's enough for me to know that it's there. Just going to slide in a piece of patterned paper, then I'm going to banner using my EK Success scissors. And I'm going to add some ribbon on there as well. Just add some of that gold ribbon on, and now I'm going to adhere everything. When I do my doilies, I make sure that I always use liquid adhesive, otherwise I end up tearing them. And I'm using Scotch ATG tape runner for everything else. So just adding that ribbon down, and then I will run it around the back and tape it to the back of the pattern paper. Popping everything down onto a Twiddly Bits card base. Using some Wink of Stella on her hat, it's just the clear Wink of Stella. And onto the ribbon of her dress. And I'm going to lastly just add some Nuvo crystal drops. Just popping them all over the place, nowhere in particular. Just popping them down onto my hand. I do this so that I get that little domey shape. And that's another one done. Alright, moving on to card number 6. So we're now on to the second half. So I'm just using some of those collectibles. I'm just popping a few of them together to create a little scene. And I am just working my way through. I wanted something else. Not sure what I wanted yet, but I was having a play trying to work out what I wanted to add. So I decided I was going to use that cutest pumpkin sentiment. So I'm popping in the pumpkin so that I can use it. So I also added the I don't know what that thing is that the little that the devil carries, that fork thing that's behind her. So I've adhered that in there as well. So I'm going to, I cut a circle using the Lawn Fawn stitched circle die, and I am just going to add a small piece of pattern paper strip down the bottom. I'm just using another piece just to make sure that it's nice and straight before I adhere it down. Adding all the layers together. Grabbing my charger, of course, my computer's almost going to die. Alright, so I've adhered the circle down. I'm going to add it all onto a Twiddly Bits card base. And then I will position the sentiment, just rubbing off a bit of excess glue there. Just fixing that up. I didn't glue the whole thing down to start with because I wasn't sure exactly where I was going to put it. And now we're going to add I'm going to add some of the peel-offs just to the bottom of that pattern paper strip. So just fixing all that up, I'm going to add some sequins. I did change my mind on the sentiment at the last minute, so I decided to go with the Too Cute to Spook. So that was that card done. So now moving on to card number 7. So I'm just adding some pattern paper strips down to the side of my card. I wanted to use this Candy Yawl sentiment, which I thought was gorgeous. And just trying to find something else to add. It didn't seem like enough, so I wanted to add something else. And then I came across this little spider and I thought it was perfect. That I can make a clean and simple card, I can be happy, and I can love it. And I did. Not very often I make clean and simple cards, but for this one I did, and I was quite happy with it. So just adhering everything down using a mixture of Scotch ATG and the Tombow Mono Multi, just depending on what area I was working on. So just popping everything down onto a Twiddly Bits card base. And of course I need to add some Nuvo crystal drops, so that's what I'm popping on here. Again, just tapping them off screen this time around, just so that I can get that nice dome shape. And that was another card done. I think I'm finished. Yes, I am with that one. And now I am moving on to the next card. So this is card number 8. So I'm using the little kitty cat. I'm just adding one of the little bows to her hat. I thought it would make it stand out just a little bit more. And now this is where I'm using that cutest pumpkin sentiment, and I am adding a pumpkin in as well so that I can make sure that it all blends in together properly. Alright, so I wanted to add a circle in the background behind the images, so I ran that through my Sizzix Big Shot just using that same Lawn Fawn circle die. That's the same die that I've used all the way through. I've grabbed some Memento Tuxedo Black and I am stamping all of those little images down again. They're actually exactly the same ones that I used last time. I hadn't taken them off my acrylic block yet, so they're all the same layout and everything. So stamping those down onto the white cardstock. Alright, so now I'm going to pop my image down onto that patterned paper that I've created, just lining it all up. Trying to work out what I'm going to do, what I'm going to finish this card. I'm going to add it onto a Twiddly Bits card base. And just running through all of the papers that I've got there. And I cut a piece of the purple cardstock, so I'm just going to adhere that down to the Twiddly Bits card base. And I'm going to add a piece of patterned paper behind, which I just bannered using my EK Success Cutter Bee scissors. And of course adding some Nuvo crystal drops. And I'm going to add some of those purple glittery peel-offs just to the top of the banner. I didn't use them enough in all of my other cards, so I'm trying to add them on where I can. And that one is just about done. And moving on to the Kicks card. So now we're on card number 9. So I'm going to use one of the little witchy woos that I coloured up. I'm just layering it up. Just using one of the little broomsticks for underneath and behind her. And I'm using the Boo Y'all sentiments. So that was just out of the collectibles pack. I think I got that out of. So just having a play around with some design there, not sure exactly what I wanted to do. I've grabbed my Twiddly Bits card base and now I am just trying to work out where I'm going to put everything. So I added in that little bottle of poison to the right of her, and I'm now just trying to toss up if I would like to add a circle of patterned paper behind. So just work out what I'm going to do. So I've just run some of that grey sparkly cardstock through my Sizzix Big Shot, again just using that Lawn Fawn Stitch Circle die. Just going through all of my bits and pieces, trying to work out what I'm going to do to finish this card off. Alright, so I've cut some layers up. I've cut some of the pattern paper up, some of the purple cardstock and some of the white cardstock. And I'm just going to layer them up together, creating some mats as well, just to bring that up off the card base. I'm still not happy. I'm not loving my design, so I'm just having a play around in the background trying to work out what I'm going to do. So what I've decided to do is I've grabbed the stencil again, so I'm going to pop the stencil down on that white, on the the great sparkly cardstock, and I'm going to add some texture paste. I've used more texture paste in this kit than I have used in the lifetime of owning this texture paste. Sometimes I forget that I've got it, but I don't normally use it. It's not normally my thing, so it's a big deal how many times I've used it in this kit. It's pretty cool. So just very carefully peeling that off, just fixing up the edges there. Just going to give everything a good clean off, and I am once again not waiting, so I am using my heat gun to dry that off and set it all. It didn't take too long actually, I was quite surprised. Alright, so I'm just grabbing some wet wipes to clean off my desk area just in case any of it isn't dry. Now I'm going to add everything together, layering it all up. Just using some American Tombow Mono Multi here. And I'm going to add it down onto that spider web first, and then I'll add some adhesive behind it and get it all adhered gorgeously. I just kind of moved that spider web that I created around until I got just the right piece that I wanted. I'm just adding layering just a piece of cardstock over the top just to make sure that I have everything adhered the way that I wanted. So I'm quite happy with that. So I'm just going to add some Scotch ATG to the back, and then I will adhere it to a Twiddly Bits card base. Of course, making sure in the background that the card base is the right way around. And that was card number 9. So now we're going to move on to card number 10 and the final card from this kit. I have so much stuff left over, guys. I can probably make another 10 cards, I reckon, which I do hope to do. There is so many goodies in this kit. It was a very, very exciting and super kit. For those of you that were able to grab it, I hope you guys have as much fun as what I did. Unfortunately, it has now sold out, but if you'd like to subscribe to the future kits, I will have some linky winkies at the end of the video in the description. Please use that link and go and subscribe. These are always amazing kits. You get so much good stuff in them. Sometimes it can take you out of your comfort zone, but I find that's a good thing. It did so much for me when I was trying to create. So I am using the little ghost and the bow from the collectibles, and I'm also using the Peekaboo sentiment. So I am just trying to work out what exactly I'm going to do. I know I wanted to use her. She has the most beautiful eyelashes. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some of the pink cardstock that was in the kit and some of the white. The white I actually cut, that was actually the center from another piece. So I made sure that I cut the center out so I wasn't wasting too much. So I'm just cutting some layers in the background, just using my Fiskars shortcut trimmer. I'm bannering up some of the small strips of pattern paper that I had left over in the kit and adhering those using the Scotch ATG. Just want to work out all of my layers and then I'll cut that excess off when I'm done. So I used another piece of the pink cardstock in the background to make a matte layer. I've added the little book into what would be her arm. And I found some little flowers on the on my desk from when I was going through the little pack of collectibles. So I decided to add those onto my card as well. So I'm just adding all of those bits and pieces together, and then I'm going to adhere everything using some Scotch ATG. Popping all that down onto a Twiddly Bits card base. And am I adding anything else? I'm having a play, trying to work out, do I want to add something else? Nope, I decided I was happy with it. That's it, guys. That's 10 cards for one kit, the September 2018 Super Kit. I thank you all for sticking with me and watching, and I hope that you'll subscribe. All the links will be at the end of the video in the subscription box. Thank you. Bye.